presents Scratch a Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grim Show. I am the Dude.
And I'm Grim. And today we are going to go into some somewhat uncharted territory. And we are going to talk about Depeche Mode's 1987 album, Music for the Masses. And Deuteronomy, this is one that I brought to the table. There's a lot of them that we know because they've kind of been with us, so to speak, throughout our lives, or at least a lot of them. But this is one that had not been with me. I mean, I've been aware of and listened to some Depeche Mode. I think I probably listened to Violator, which is, I believe, their most popular album. And I think that was like 1990. But I didn't know this one. And it was... we'll talk a lot about this, but it was pleasant to get to know it, and you can hear so much influence, I think, in this record that we'll talk about as it translates. But how did you come about learning? Is there any shout outs we need to know about for Depeche Mode's Music for the Masses?
Yes. Well, there is a shout out. Good friend of mine, Shalee. She brought this album to my attention. She's a big fan of theirs. Brought this album to my attention, I'd say probably a while ago, but then I'm, of course, a little lame sometimes when people suggest music to me and I'm like, I'll listen to it, or I download it and then I never get to it. And then I put it on, man, and right from the first song, I dug it because I think maybe I had heard Depeche Mode a little bit, seen a lot of their music videos. So Anton Corbijn, again, one of our music video directors.
Okay, that's I thought that was him, and as we talked about him before, that's cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so he did for this album, he did songs for Never Let Me Down Again Strange Love, as well as Behind the Wheel. So I had seen some of their music videos. I think he did almost all of them, because on the back of his DVD there's like 4 or 5 songs, I think. So he's been kind of their go-to music video person. So I had been familiar with that, some of those songs, but never really delved into the albums. And I for some reason it was recommended Music for the Masses, and then I believe the album before this, which was Black Celebration, were recommended. I don't know why I chose this one, but I did. And dude, I put it on, and something just really, really resonated with me right away. And I put this album on a lot now. I really dig it.
Yeah, I like it too. And it's such a different, I mean, I guess I listen to some music that could be considered kind of like new wave-ish, right?
Yeah. But
it doesn't come on the rotation as regularly as some of the other stuff. But I found this album quite pleasant, so much so that I wore my Moog Synth t-shirt. Even though I don't think any Moogs were harmed in the making or used in the making of this album. Synths had kind of moved into a different direction at that time, and everything was digital, which was, there were things you could do with digital synths then that you couldn't do with analog synths. So that's how they could get these elaborate loops and everything and translate it into a live show. Because when you look at videos of their performance, I mean, it's like 2 guys on synths, the singer, and then a guy who sings and like plays the guitar sometimes.
A little guitar. Plays some guitar sometimes. Exactly.
Yeah, if you were to like pick up a magazine of like the best guitarists in rock and roll, I don't think he'd be on there, but what he did worked really well for the band, and I mean they had a great sound. have a great
if it
sound.
fits, it chips.
Yeah.
So, well, they're one of these. They're an amazingly iconic band, and I'm actually surprised, or maybe not surprised, that I haven't really delved into them as much. But I definitely plan to some more. And like you said, they had some. They have, dude, 54 songs on the UK singles chart and 17 top 10 albums. They've sold more than 100 million records worldwide. That is insane, dude.
Well, I think a lot of it's in Europe too, because I know some of my colleagues that I would talk music with in Europe. That was a band that like they would bring up,
right?
Like it was a big band for them, and I was like, yeah, I know Depeche Mode, but I would be like, have you ever heard of Radiohead?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, but anyways, I just think that they had a bigger foothold, and they talked about. You also brought to the table a really good documentary about the recording of this album, and I think they talked about that. Was it "Strange Love" was like the hit that really brought them out of the fringe in the U.S. and more mainstream?
Yeah, I think it might have been "Strange Love." Oh, gosh. I think it was, because I think it was the first single off the album as well.
Yeah.
So I think that really did it. And we both talked a little bit about the tour that they were on in the US.
Yeah.
And this
is a big deal.
It's kind of when this album came out, but they were playing, I know we joke about Spinal Tap. They were playing
2,000 seater.
No, but they were playing,
Yeah.
I don't know, it may have been more than that.
Like
but
theaters.
We're not playing. Yeah, they're playing
Yeah.
theater style, not stadiums. But then to basically wrap up the tour, they did, I believe, was it a free concert? I think it might have been free.
I don't know if it was free, but it sounds like were they with the Pet Shop Boys? Is that how it worked? Like they got in with them
a little bit
on that show?
A little bit.
And they
then
ended
the Pet
up
Shop Boys
playing
were
over 60,000. Oh, 70,000 at the Pasadena Rose Bowl.
Yeah. Which is a big place.
Yeah, and the one and I think they said like prior to that concert that hadn't been a music venue in like 10 years or something.
For a while.
Yeah, so when they play there, it's like the PA is different than what they're used to. I'm sure the sound coming back to them was a lot different too. So, and then of course there's the whole business of
basically they couldn't hear themselves actually.
Yeah. And then there's basically an electrical storm that happened to go on in the middle of their set. But I listened. Yeah. They did do a great job recording that concert. And can
you download? So you can download. It's an actual album.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. I found it on Spotify, and it was that Pasadena Rose Bowl concert, and it was. Boy, for not hearing themselves, they definitely were pretty in tune with what they should be doing live. Because I thought the live show translated a lot better than I would have thought. It was good. It was very good.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, and they did make a documentary. I think it's called like Depeche Mode 101 or something like that. And D.A. Pennebaker, he's the one who directed it. He also did Bob Dylan's. I always forget the name of it because I get them all mixed up. Because the Scorsese one, I think, is No Direction Home. I want to say his might be Bringing It All Back Home or Don't Look Back. No, his is called Don't Look Back.
Yep.
His documentary on.
Didn't he
on
also
Dylan,
do the one about the Stones that you have too?
That was the Maisels brothers.
Oh, okay.
I believe the Gimme Shelter.
Yeah, that's
Albert and someone Maisels. I think I'm saying the last name right, but yeah, Pennebaker. His documentaries are a little more. They're a little different, a little more fly on the wall type.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
So, but I guess you could say Gimme Shelter is similar to that as well. Not your like sit down interview, tell us about, not that kind of stuff. But,
rubbish.
Yes, rubbish. But so I guess maybe going into I don't know. Well, the album, it was well received by critics, but it wasn't critically acclaimed kind of right out of the gates. It was one of those ones that kind of, it needed to be around for a little bit and people look back on it.
It's crazy. It was their sixth album.
Their sixth album. I know. So, their producer was Daniel Miller. He had been their producer on, I think, this 3 albums, but I don't think he was really jiving with the way that their music direction was going. So he kind of took a little sidestep, and I think he wanted to work with some other bands and other projects. So it was, I guess, I couldn't find, too much info like on the Tension, but in 2007, Black Celebration, it was released with a bonus DVD that we talked about a little bit that included a documentary on it. And I tried to order this DVD. I got on Amazon, I ordered it, or the special edition album with the DVD. And then I got an email like 10 minutes later saying, it did say out of stock, but then it said, we can't. Sorry, here's your money back. And
you're not gonna work here anymore.
It's not gonna work here anymore. Yeah. So then,
Oh, okay.
So I Googled it, and somehow I got on like a Depeche Mode Brazil page, and was able to find the documentary. And the documentary itself is a great title, and I think it was a little bit of a shot at Daniel Miller. And the title of the documentary, really long, is "The Songs Aren't Good Enough, There Aren't Any Singles, and It'll Never Get Played on the Radio." That's the title of the documentary about the making of this album.
Oh, I thought it was called Sometimes You Need New Jokes. Or was that just like the tagline? Because I know one of the band members and the producer, they say that too. Sometimes you need new jokes. Because then they worked, as you said, they kind of abandoned working with Miller, and then they worked with David Bascombe, who had worked with Tears for Fears and Peter Gabriel. Yeah. Pretty formidable players in the game. At that time. I was actually just watching some Peter Gabriel videos with Lucy today. Dude, the claymation in them. We need to do an episode on that because, dude, the claymation and the animation in those videos is really trippy.
Awesome.
It makes the beginning of Brain Donors look like a child's finger painting.
But it's pretty good. I was going to say we need to tie that in.
I know. Oh, yeah.
So basically, started working with a new producer and recorded the album. They went on tour, and they described this album as electronic metal. That's
I know. I was going to bring that up, which I don't hear the metal, but I can hear the precursor for what I would call electronic metal, which is like Nine Inch Nails and your industrial stuff,
Well, you were talking about, you said in the beginning how this kind of influenced some of the music. And that's what happened when I was listening to it. And we'll talk once we go through some tracks. There's some real things that stand out for me. But Nine Inch Nails being one of my favorite bands. Once I started listening to this, I was like, wow, Trent really got influenced on some things here. And I really I wouldn't say he copied. I like the direction. I like his influence in the direction that he took it.
But you can hear the influence for sure. And I thought that was cool because I noticed. I mean, you would kind of talked to me about that prior to, but it was, I think, had you not said anything, I would have heard the same, because it's cool.
It's there. Yeah. Well, maybe before we get into the tracks, I did want to talk about the album cover a little bit.
I'm glad you brought that up because I did.
Yeah,
and the title itself, because I think that I like the fact that they, it almost sounds pretentious, but to them it was a real big joke because they felt their music was so like underground that a lot of people wouldn't get it. So I loved, and he got the thing from a classical record. He said one of the guys said that the title because it was called Music for the Millions. And then he found that title amusing because he's like, millions of people are not going to listen to this record. And so they kind of adapted it for their own, which I thought is funny. Yeah. And I like the fact that it's not like they take themselves that, they can see the humor in it.
Well, they were kind of poking fun at everybody and they kind of give them a little bit of a middle finger too, because so many people were telling them, including I think their producer who they moved on from, people wanted them to make their music more commercial, make it more music for the masses, right? Yeah. And they were like, look, this is not what we're doing or what we're into. So the album cover, for those of you who haven't seen it, basically it's really interesting because it's just like a landscape picture of these loudspeakers with a great kind of sunset sky behind it. And
Just I think out into everywhere, you know?
Yeah. In the documentary, I think they described it really well, one of the members, where they describe them as kind of propaganda type speakers. And and that's what stood out to me. It was almost kind of like, I can imagine it in like a utopian society, like something like in the Hunger Games, where, you know, where they are like making announcements and stuff like that. But another scene in a movie that actually really... That really stood out to me is, if you remember in the Shawshank Redemption, when Andy Dufresne, he plays the music for all the prisoners.
Oh,
He takes the microphone. And so they have all the prisoners in the big, you know, in their, I guess you call it the yard is what you would call it. And they hear the music. Yeah, they hear the music over that. And so seeing this kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And so I think the title of the album, the title really fits the album, because it's, you know, it's a way to spread and play the music for masses of people. And it was also just a little poke, like, hey, all right, well, you guys wanted music for the masses. Here you go. So
here you go. Put this in your pipe and vape it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, vape it. Vape it, brah.
So,
vape it, brah.
Tracks.
Getting into the tracks. Starting off, well, and this is, again, an album, so side one. We start off with Never Let Me Down Again. And for me, I love the way this is a great song to start the album, man.
Just get that pump of the kick drum, you know?
That's right, dude. But it's a really strong, kind of bold song. And I noticed they, at least on this album, they kind of mix it up a little. They go from like a bolder song. All of them have like a real kind of dark feeling, and I think that's what appealed to me when I heard this. It's not in like an evil kind of sense, but a mysterious, strong kind of feeling, and that's where I get sort of that industrial feel, I guess you would want to say, right? But as soon as I put this song on and I heard it, I was like, okay, I like this. I just knew that I liked it.
Yeah, I felt the same thing when I started it up the first time. I mean, I've listened to it several times since then, which I guess was kind of good that we kind of got delayed, and we may have had some technical difficulties with an episode or two along the way. Maybe we re-recorded one, but that gave me more time with the album, because like I said, this wasn't one that had been in my regular rotating catalog since the tender age of whatever, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. It was good to, I'd probably been listening to this album now consistently for, I'd say 4 months, 3 or 4 months now. And it's awesome. And I'm glad I had that kind of time to, you know, I haven't had years like some people, but it's great. I'm glad I had that time to let it kind of sink in.
Yeah.
So I definitely like this song. I love it's got a good, there's even like a piano that kind of comes in at parts that's really strong. The vocals have that, I will say there's like a standard stereotypical kind of 80s vocal sound, and it has it. And one thing I wanted to ask you about, I feel like a lot of vocals in the 80s have a lot of, I don't know, maybe it's a reverb or echo, but it makes it sound so deep.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bands that kind of have that. Yeah. There's a sound.
There is, but I also think that there's that sort of a echo to all of 80s music. I mean, it's in the drums, and I don't know. It was just part of the sound of that time, you know? Love it or hate it. I mean, I think it was just one of the things, but
them things.
Yeah. Them things. So yeah, I think actually the first 3 songs, not that I'm going to skip over the second one, which is Things You Said, but I feel like the first 3 songs start the album out really strongly.
Dude,
because I think
I'm so glad you said that. Like, I couldn't agree more.
Things You Said is a really good song, and of course they all kind of and they do talk about this in the documentary as well, but that they're all, a lot of it's about like human relationships, and you can hear that
very much so,
like somebody got burned or something.
Yeah, and when I was sitting down and listening to it and really kind of looking at the lyrics, that is very prevalent. A lot of it is about relationships and people, and not just love, but I think also about friendships and things like that.
Yeah, and to me, you had brought up how it kind of reminds you of industrial and like Nine Inch Nails and sort of things. And I mean, I feel like that music also has similar. You know,
definitely. This song, I like how it has, it goes from kind of, we start off with a little more, I don't know if it's a upbeat, but a strong, bold song. And then this song is more with, I guess it's a slower, it's again, dark song, but it has this kind of mystical sort of eerie feeling to it. But also one thing I picked up on, and I don't know if you remember this, and there's a small part in this song that has a real Koyaanisqatsi feeling to me. There's a Philip Glass.
Well, and one of the guys said he was listening to a lot of Philip Glass.
Glass. Which around this time, I forget what year. I mean, Koyaanisqatsi came out before 87. I'm pretty sure. I want to say it was mid 80s. And so I'm sure they had, 1982. So I'm wondering when Powakatsi was.
It says 83 is the release to Koyaanis. So I mean,
Powakatsi especially was 88 release. Yeah.
If these guys liked Philip Glass just as a composer, I would think you'd be safe to assume that if they didn't see the movie, I would guess they heard the soundtrack. But whether you did or not, I mean, Philip Glass's music, I think, is pretty recognizable due to the way he composes with a lot of arpeggiation. Yep. And I mean, we were watching a TV show the other day, and my wife Lisa was like, I think this is like Philip Glass did the music for this. And I mean, like,
it's very
by
distinct.
No means she's not like what I'd call someone who's really into like minimalist music, but he's kind of broken through that, you know what I mean? So like people know him who aren't necessarily just into minimalist composers.
Yeah, totally. Well, moving on to the third track, which again is another strong one. The first single off the album is Strange Love, and this might be my favorite song on the. It's tough. I think between Strange Love and Never Let Me Down Again, those are my two favorite. But this is when I first heard this, I was like, Nine Inch Nails, Terrible Lie. Like it's that.
Oh yeah.
That.
Yeah.
It has that thing in the back there, and that it was just so distinct. It really stood out to me. But again, it's an upbeat. I say the tempo is upbeat, but it still has all those darker tones to it.
I know. I really wish there was more. They would have went into more of the drums that they used, because it's not. I don't think there's any kit drumming in the album at all. And I mean, you had only a handful of like real big drum machines that were like the big deal at the time, which you had the Linn drum module, which is really recognizable, and I'm sure it's got to be on here. And then, your Roland stuff like your TR 808 and 909. But I think because as I listen to it, a lot of these songs tend to gravitate more toward the ones that sound like real drums, where some of the Roland stuff doesn't. That's where you get like your techno in your house and the beginning of like hip hop beats from. But these, I think they wanted to sound more like real drums, and they did a good job. But they're all programmed. You know what I mean? Like when you hear it,
Yeah. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, so if they're doing that for the live, I mean, when they were doing that live, is someone on stage doing that, or is that like an off stage thing that they just
it could
start
be anything
playing
like
the track?
A lot of them, especially by 87, you could save patches. So you could have like, okay, well, when I hit number 2 here, I know it's going to be Strange Love, and then you just hit start, stop, and it just goes.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know what they could have had because I'm guessing some of the synths they had could probably sample things too and use it for a loop. And maybe they say I don't know. I wish they would have went into more of the technical stuff, but then again, you'd have me and a handful of other nerds who would care about that, and everyone else wouldn't. So
maybe not care, but find it interesting.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we go to track 4, "Sacred." Again, going now. That's a little slower song. It starts off slower, but then it does pick up.
Yeah.
And it has I guess I describe a lot of their stuff as like having that mystical feel. And I guess I say that because it's kind of darker and a little more, I don't know, just a little dreary, but industrial too.
And so, especially this, because it's talking kind of about like religion and I think like a missionary kind of.
That's what it seemed like to me.
Something
like there
about
was
like walking on hallowed ground and, using lyrics like that.
The lyrics seem to be about someone going out, kind of seeing the world, interpreting it, and then describing it or putting it out there for others, but not necessarily like some dude standing on a street corner with a megaphone, nothing like that. So then we go track 5, "Little 15." The lyrics I found are very kind of interesting. It does seem to be about
I couldn't figure out what they were about, honestly.
So I don't know if it is about someone who is actually 15 years old. I guess it could be. That's what I would think. But it sounds like that person has experienced some bad stuff, or some bad stuff has happened to them, and they kind of can't get away. But at the same time, it's this kind of relaying that this won't be like your whole life. There is hope, or there is a future, but you just kind of trying to get over that hump and
get through
get away from where you are. And it doesn't really necessarily say whether the struggles are internal, external, or both. But bottom line is she needs to get out. Is kind of how I. But the song, they said that they recorded it last because they kind of didn't know what to do with it, so they kept putting it off.
I can see that because the way they kind of break up the arpeggios, and I think they put them in stereo, like parts of them, so I can see where this would create a little bit of a challenge in that regard. But I mean, it certainly came out fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we go ahead. We're gonna flip to side 2.
Yeah.
And Behind the Wheel, one of their definitely more popular songs off the album. I forget, it was a single. I don't know what number it was, or if I have that down here. I don't know if it's really that important, but they basically said this song has 4 repeating chords.
Yeah, I thought that was he compared it to one of those optical illusion staircases, where as soon as you think you're to the top,
like an Escher drawing or something. Like a staircase where you don't get anywhere.
Bottom.
Yeah. So just keep going.
No, but I like that one, and it's like the other person's driving.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, his analogy does make sense because there is that repetition, and the repetition with the synth, to me, it has like a very like robotic type feel to it. Very mechanical.
Yeah.
And as far as the lyrics go, I kind of took them to mean just a person who just don't want to be in charge anymore. Basically saying, I'd rather not be the one behind the wheel, but come pull my strings. You'll watch me move. Like, hey, I'll be your puppet is basically what he's kind of saying there. And Corbin did the music video. Oh, okay, their third single from the album. So Corbin did the music video for this as well. And again, very black and white and stuff. Yeah. So it's very. They definitely have a theme.
They do. A lot of leather. A lot of
leather. Yeah. Again, Spinal Tap.
Like black leather.
The black leather. So
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. This is one of their most popular songs, and I think the one that people I think really like the most. And for me, when I look at the whole album, I'm like, geez, this might be my 4th or 5th favorite song on the album compared to some of them that I like. So that's just me. So
no, and that's okay.
Moving on, Grim. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. I Want You Now.
I want
what stands out to me about this is the breathing, right? The breathing in the song. And I love how the producer talks about they just had an accordion and you can hit a button on the accordion and it just allows you to open it and close it and get the air moving back and forth.
Dude, that was like, it's so crazy. Like, that's what that sound is.
I know.
Isn't it? Like, it's so crazy. But also, they seemed like the rhythm section, like the rhythm of the song, they almost basically made beats like out of the moaning and breathing, it seems like.
Well,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
and that would be my guess, is that you get like whatever your BPM is, and then you just practice getting to know that. And so, and then, or just put it, yeah.
But there are different people kind of breathe and moan, and there's certain sounds throughout the song that kind of add other layers of kind of the beats and the rhythm. It just seemed kind of cool, but the song is very sort of minimal other than that. I mean, that's kind of what it is, but it does have that kind of dark, sort of sexy feel to it. And it's pretty direct. I want you now, tomorrow won't do. I mean, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for interpretation, and that's okay.
No, or a lot of time, really. I mean,
no,
depending on what time, you got about 8 to 12 hours max there, and that's it.
That's it. Moving on. All right, To Have It and To Hold. Track number 8. Again, it seems pretty straightforward from a lyrical perspective. It's
kind of the opposite of the other one.
Yeah, this is
more
like,
of a wholesome approach. Yeah,
it's their redemption song. Like, hey, I need to be cleansed, make amends, damage is done. I need forgiveness. It's got a medium tempo to it, but again, they're very consistent about just kind of having a strong, like, bold sound to a lot of their songs and their music. So it's pretty cool. The next song, Nothing. This might be, I struggle on what my favorite songs on the album are. This might actually be my favorite song, but I can't decide yet. Yeah. It has a cool feel to it. It actually reminds me, the beat and the tempo reminds me of the song Dead Souls. And I forget who
that was
Dead
on the Crow
Souls
song
is originally by, because I know Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails covered it, but I think it's a cover.
I did not know. Welcome to the Covers Face Off, then.
And yeah, it is on
the Crow soundtrack.
Maybe it's just from the Crow soundtrack. Was it Dead Souls, or maybe it's a different? I'm pretty sure.
Dead Souls.
No, Joy Division. Joy Division originally did it.
Oh, then let me update the spreadsheet real quick.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Covers Face Off.
Yep, here we go.
Boom. Yes. Awesome. That is good. Well, I'm glad we just ran through that little exercise. But there is a part of it, for some reason, really reminded me of that song, at least more of the Nine Inch Nails version. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And, you didn't know when you woke up today. Good. There's some good lines. I don't know. It's just one of my favorite songs on the album. And, it's whereas, like, To Have and To Hold, and I think one of the other songs we talked about, even like Little 15, were a little more, the things you said, a little more stripped down. This one is definitely more full,
like bigger.
Yeah, and again, it does have that Nine Inch Nails feeling to me. Mm-hmm. And then we go to the final track, Pimpf. You about Pimpf?
I don't understand what that means.
I don't know either. Yeah, but again, this is
meaning.
There is a meaning.
Oh, wow!
What is it?
Interesting. It was a slang word for any member of the German youth movement. So, like the Hitler Youth. That was a slang term for, one of the little boys who was, wow.
Huh. Interesting.
So its meaning in Upper German, or like High German, proper German is boy or little rascal, or, whatever, rapscallion is another term that I saw, but that's interesting. I would not have guessed that, but at least it makes sense. I just figured they liked putting the F at the end of it, but
yeah, totally.
I like it. I think it's a good way to kind of end it.
Wrap it up.
And so, interestingly enough, though, when they did do that concert, they started the concert with this as like, and I thought that was I did too.
Yeah,
it was a good song to kind of introduce, to kind of like walk out to.
It has this just like epic kind of sound to it, and if you've heard it, obviously that it starts off with the kind of the eerie piano, and then it slowly builds up, and then there's this big, just dramatic drum that in the background.
Those are there's timpanis in there, and I thought it was interesting that the producer said that the studio they used was in Paris, and it used to be a theater, and when they went in the theater, there was still a piano and a lot of these symphonic instruments in there, which were like the timpanis, and they ended up using those instruments on this song. And he said it was perfect because it was just all like right there. And so I would imagine that kind of helped in making the song what it was, because you're going to see that stuff lying around and probably have a go at it.
Use it. Yeah. Exactly. But then, the song builds to that kind of choir chant, which is almost it has a real just kind of like dark feeling. Like part of me is like,
now that you know the meaning, I feel like it sounds like what the meaning of that word is.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, then the song ends and there's like a dead space, and then there's like the final 20 seconds. They call it like a hidden track. And it says like the hidden track, like Mission Impossible, but it doesn't sound like Mission Impossible to me. I don't know
maybe
exactly
that's just their term for it, instead of that they were actually doing the theme song.
Yeah, because it's not the theme song.
No,
it's definitely not. It's the farthest thing from it. So
yeah.
All right. So Timothy Grimothy.
Without further ado, you are on the tee this week, dude. Urino.
Batter up. So for me, I did have it narrowed down to 2 songs. But I'm gonna scratch Little 15.
That's in my short list. I can see why. That's one though that I actually started to like more as I listened to it a bit more.
It's funny, man, because when I was listening to it today and thinking like, oh, am I really gonna scratch it? And then I started listening. I'm like, you know what? There is like there's something about it that maybe has started to grow on me. So maybe if we revisit this album ever, I will have a different scratch. But I think, right now I'll have to scratch it.
All right, that's fair.
What you got?
I think I would do I Want You Now.
Okay.
I get like the point of it and the feel and all that, but it's just one of those ones that doesn't really do a lot for me, and I could easily go right from behind the wheel to having to hold.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So that's my scratch, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, for me it was kind of between Little 15 and actually Pimpf, just because I love Nothing, and I'm like, I could end it there.
Yeah, there's some, and I think I would have said Pimpf too in the beginning, but once I listened to that concert and I heard him start the concert with that, I was like, man, that's pretty damn cool. Like I'm into it now.
It's a good song to like come out to.
Yeah,
because it's not even one that they probably, it was just like, it's just kind of like the track I think that they're playing. I don't think that they necessarily, started playing it or started the recording and then they went out and started playing it or doing it themselves. Yeah. It was just kind of like, the way they opened the show, kind of like, when Radiohead opened for OK Computer, they would just start playing Fitter Happier as they like walked out on stage.
Sure.
And then they'd go into their song.
See that. So, I could see that.
Definitely.
I mean, if you were going to be a professional wrestler, that wouldn't be a terrible song to like, if you were, That's
you can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it. Well, maybe we should change our podcast to like podcast for the masses. What do you think?
I don't know, man.
No,
we still gotta
stay on brand. Let's stay on brand.
Pardon me, dude.
Bless you.
Yeah,
Bless
that's
you.
a first.
Stay on brand, my friend.
So,
well, having said that, I think it's about time we wrap it up. Should we wrap it up? All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to our episode on Music for the Masses. We highly recommend this album, as we highly recommend all our albums. If you guys are so inclined, check out some of our previous episodes, because we got a lot. I think we're on 30. I don't even know what this is. 36
and counting.
We're in the mid 30s, and we got the whole rest of the year planned out.
Yeah,
and we're already making plans for 2021. So
the new tab in the spreadsheet has been started, and I did actually add that covers Face Off in there while we were talking.
You did.
You can see it. Yeah.
No, I couldn't see it, but I knew you were doing it. So did you see today? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that was awesome. I replied back
Google
to you.
Sheets. Oh, okay. All right.
Google Sheets.
Well, on that note, people, the Dude and Grim Scratch a Track podcast, subscribe, follow, like, do all the other things that you can do on social media to get us more followers. All right. And for
scratch us, we'll scratch you back.
Exactly. We can't wait to scratch you. All right. Peace out, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Till next time.
Peace out.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE and the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.
Media, of course, the thing that is occupying the foreground is nostalgia.